Congrats, Andrew. Congrats on finally winning. Four straight was brutal. Um, Glad to see you finally pulled one out, got the W, even though it was at my expense. Yeah, that was brutal. I hate to see the trophy leave my desk. You'll have to come get that from me if you really want it. But yeah, good for you. Hope you can ride off into the sunset and hopefully return next year and be back to your normal self and have a shitty team because that makes my life a lot easier. But yeah, congrats again.
Yo, what's up, Best Night Ever League? Season recap here. I just want to start off and say congratulations to Andrew on your first championship. That's very awesome, man. Super happy for you. Um, Thanks for keeping Bobby from getting a second ring. If it wasn't me, I'm glad it's you. Yeah.
All right, Andrew, congratulations. You are a winner. Nobody can take that from you. And you are just the epitome of fantasy football is about luck. All right. And nothing wrong with being lucky. It's great. You were the one that God was shining upon. Perhaps, hey, a big year for the Catholic God and Jesus Christ in general. A marriage and a fantasy championship. Good for you. I'm proud of you. Way to stick with it. And we'll see what happens next year.
What is up, Best Night Ever League? It is T-Bay, 5th place, coming at you. First and foremost, I got to say congrats to Andrew. Very impressed, man. You went from the depths of hell to the very top. A true success story. You've inspired us all, and I was very impressed that you pulled it off this year. So well done.
Hello, Best Night Ever League. I just want to give a big congratulations to Andrew. It was a hell of a ride. 4 years of losing. Then you saw your team last year kind of make this jump to where you got 5th place, but also outscored everybody in the league last year in the playoffs both weeks. So you could kind of see the changing of the tide. Obviously, you kind of put yourself over the top with CeeDee Lamb. Having him and Christian McCaffrey was basically too much for anybody to handle. You kind of just filled in around those two. Austin Eckler was a big disappointment, but he still ended up on a championship team, so that was amazing. And after everything this year, it's I'm happy for you and congratulations.
What up, Best Night Ever League? Connor here. First off, big congrats to Andrew. I think it was well deserved. The winner's bracket was pretty pathetic this year, but throughout the playoffs, your team was consistently pretty high scoring, so I definitely feel like you deserve it. So congrats on that. That's huge.
What up, Best Night Ever League? First off, congrats to Andrew for winning this year. Super stoked for you, man. I think it's awesome to see someone new take on a championship ring this year and get their name on that trophy. So super stoked to see that.
First of all, I'd just like to say congratulations to Andrew on winning the championship. I think it was well deserved, especially after you lost all those years in a row. I can imagine that was getting frustrating and difficult for you. So congrats, man. You deserved it.
Andrew, congrats on the dub, my man. No, huge shout out to you. Good work. Very inspiring for next season. I'm looking forward to getting in the mix and hopefully coming out as Rookie of the Year. It's going to be a tight race between me and Greg, but I have hope. So we'll see how it goes.
What is going on, Best Night Ever League? This is your 2023 Best Night Ever League Fantasy Football Champion, Andrew, from team Let Me Ask My Wife. It happened. Again, what a whirlwind of a season, but hey, we're here. And somehow I get my name on a different trophy this time around. Man, what a season. I mean, I can honestly say this is the first time that football wasn't agonizing to watch. And basically, if I had one thing that I got out of this whole season is never give up, never quit, no matter how many times you get up team signs on just leave. do not quit. Something good will happen eventually, and eventually it did. And again, I can't even fathom how crazy of a season it was. I mean, just a quick week 17 recap. I mean, CD Lamb carried me. Christian McCaffrey carried me. I mean, there's really not much more to it. I mean, how lucky can a team get when Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, AJ Brown all underperform in the championship? It's insane luck, but sometimes you need a little luck in fantasy football. Not a whole lot of craziness happened in the final week other than that Dallas Lions game where CD popped off. I traded for Pacheco, even though he was injured the first couple weeks of the playoffs. He ended up giving me a nice 30-point game in week 17. And then I picked up that Bills defense just in the off chance, they're playing the New England Patriots and Bobby has a Bills stack. So I may as well get on that stack train, and that benefited me quite a bit. Man, it's kind of crazy how I got here. Last year, Bobby got where he was. He thanked Christian McCaffrey, and I do indeed have to thank Christian McCaffrey. But at the same time, I have Michael to thank for that trade. Now, there's a lot of rumblings going around that, Michael definitely gifted me Christian McCaffrey for basically CD Lamb in a third, which was very generous at the time, which I'm very thankful. However, let me just pull this up really quick because I wrote it down. That trade, even though it seems pretty one-sided, this was right after Christian McCaffrey was out for the season, and he had 2 season-ending injuries back-to-back in 2020 and 2021. People forget that there was talk that he wouldn't be the same when he came back, and I think myself and Michael took that into account. And on top of that, Michael was in the playoffs and needed a wide receiver, and CeeDee Lamb was on the block. Now, again, one-sided or not, it'll bring up discussion in Arizona, but that trade happened, and I was able to get Christian McCaffrey very cheaply. Since then, he has been the focal point of my team, and it has propelled me to being a champion. So, like Bobby last year, I also have Christian McCaffrey to thank. And again, on top of how I got here. I mean, last year Bobby had a bold prediction that he would go back to back, and he had 3 second-round picks. I'm pretty sure I was missing 4 picks from the draft this year. So if there's anything you should take out of me winning this year is you don't need draft picks, you don't need running QBs. All you need is a little luck on your side. And sure enough, you'll be a champion. That's basically how I got here. I mean, it was very low scoring champion, but you know what? A champion's a champion. I'll wear that on my shoulders. I'll wear it around. Low scoring champion, sure, we'll do it. But man, what a season! I mean, the amount of times my team scored just enough to beat my opponent was insane. That never happens, and I guess I was due. I was severely due after losing 4 times. As the league knows, my name is on the loser trophy. And also my name's going to be on the winner's trophy. And so I will be the only league member to have my name on both trophies at the same time, technically. So that's pretty cool. And it's still kind of not hit me yet. It'll hit me when I get the ring. But again, this was the craziest fantasy football season, I think, in my viewpoint ever. To some people, this might be the worst season because of all the injuries, but hey, I'll take those injuries again if it'll make me become a champion once again. It's been, again, my emotions are high, but also at the same time, very thankful that just everything fell in my hands. I mean, the people that have been a champion, Thomas, Cam, Jacob, Bobby, their emotions are very high, and I can feel that right now. But at the same time, part of me is just really reflective. If I would have known I would have been champion, I would have been even more excited earlier in the season, I guess I would have been more pumped in general. But I think I have it inbred in my brain that I play not to lose. So as long as I don't lose, it's a win. And when you become a champion on top of that, it's just icing on the cake. Man, what a season. Again, I can't reiterate enough that when you have wide receiver 1, running back 1, tight end 2, and play the right defense every week, you can become a champion. And I will be your champion for a year. And I look forward to another crazy year next year. I mean, will I repeat? Who's to say? I'm not going to make any bold predictions because I don't know how many quarterbacks are going to get injured. But I'll leave you with that. Again, I cannot wait to see you guys in Arizona. It'll be a fun Super Bowl. And this is your champion signing off for the 2023 season.
All right, so we're going to go into a recap of my season. I think the biggest thing, I think I drafted decent. I had 3 second-round picks. However, 2 of those second-round picks fucking sucked. I had Ramondre Stevenson and Josh Jacobs in those picks, and they just didn't perform well at all. Though I will say, jumping all the way to week 12 was this really pivotal week for me, where both of them actually did really well. So you could see the strength of my team. But anyway, so I was going into that week 7-4, going into that matchup with Connor, and the winner of that basically got into playoffs between him and I. Well, at least for me, if I lost, I would have been knocked out because week 13, basically my entire roster was on bye, so it was an automatic loss. So that was my best week. I pulled out a win, 192-183, and that's when my roster finally showed what it could really do and what it should have been doing all year. That's when Josh Jacobs had 23, Ramondre Stevenson somehow had 19, even though the Patriots only scored 7. But the whole roster was firing that day, and it was great. Yeah, don't know how I made it to the playoffs, or to the championship, I should say. My team sucked throughout the back half of the year. Honestly, the beginning of the year they sucked. Middle of the year they picked it up, got me to the playoffs, and then they decided to suck again. Week 16 and 17, the championship weeks combined for a, let's see, I think like 190 something. I mean, like under 200 in the championship is like so bad. 97 in week 17. Just nobody showing up. Real bummer. Next year, looking forward to the 3 keeper instead of 4 with the addition of the 2 more homies to the league. I don't really know who I'm going to keep between Diggs and AJ Brown. It's really a toss-up. Yeah, I'm not really sure because Diggs didn't really get targeted this year. AJ Brown did, but now we found out that the Eagles are mortals. I guess that we found that out over the last 6 weeks of the season, but not too confident in Jalen Hurts throwing to him next year. So we'll see how that works. Or it could be really good. No idea. But we definitely saw that they suck without him. And they only had Devontae Smith in that in that playoff games against the Bucs. Like, they literally have no other receiver on their team that can play, especially Julio Jones when he gets a concussion in the first quarter. Yeah, so we'll see. But I have all my draft picks, unlike some of you. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing you guys in Arizona. Waste Management Open is going to be a great time, and we should have a blast. So see you all soon.
Nick, really sorry, man. I think you screwed yourself with that Tua trade. That's a real big bummer. 2 years in a row, especially after that last punishment. Hopefully you get something a little bit easier on yourself this year. Yeah, as far as the season overall, I think it was a very odd season. Running backs were terrible. A lot of quarterback injuries. a lot of big name injuries in general. Just odd football season. As far as my personal fantasy season goes, Justin Jefferson was hurt. Patrick Mahomes had a down year. Javonte Williams never materialized in anything worthwhile. So that was a little bit of a bummer. I do feel lucky getting third place out of all of it. I had that huge 6-game win streak in the middle of the season that really secured the playoffs for me. He just couldn't pull it off, and that was that week 14 and 15. The team couldn't do it. I think my receivers combined for 7 points. Terrible. Anyways, big questions going forward with keepers. Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes are locks. As far as Amon-Ra and Brock Purdy, Amon-Ra is the better one. I'd love to keep him, but the quarterback situation is going to be rough next year. So who knows what's going to happen. Make some trade offers at me, guys. I enjoyed every minute of this season, as stressful as it was. Look forward to it next year. See you all in Phoenix. Peace.
But congrats. Happy you don't have to do any of those punishments because those don't look too fun at all. So happy you avoided that. But yeah, good work, man. And we'll see you soon.
Sorry that nearly all of your trades for the playoffs didn't really work out. Pacheco had a good game, but sorry about Keenan Allen. But I'm very happy to have another third-round pick, and very happy to have draft capital that I have. I feel like my season was up and down, a lot of injuries. I was lucky enough to get into the playoffs, even though I was the fourth highest scorer, so nobody can take that from me. I deserve to be in there. But it's a fucked up year. But I got a bunch of draft picks for next year, and I'm ready to roll. So let's make it happen. I'm ready to move on to 2024. So cheers to the offseason, and I'll see you boys later.
Now, a little bit about my year. It was one I'd love to forget. It was a complete disaster at every turn. It was a shit show. My draft picks sucked. My keepers got hurt. My draft picks that I thought were good ended up being shitty because the players were on teams that were using backup quarterbacks like Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall, all these fucking dudes. I couldn't control that their quarterbacks just fell off the face of the earth, or it was just one of those years. So between all the injuries and that other shit, I was very thrilled that I did not fucking lose this year. I was so certain by probably by week 8 or so, I was fully convinced I was definitely going to lose. By about week 3, I already had that feeling in my stomach that this was going to be a year to forget. And I was not wrong. It was a disaster until week 14 came around. That nightmare ended, and I woke up in a beautiful wet dream, and I completely filled my pants. I was so fucking thrilled that I did not lose. I could not believe Joe Flacco. Shouts out to you, David Njoku. You guys are my saviors, and there will always be a special place in my heart for you guys. That was incredible. David Njoku was insane in the playoffs. Just one of those just miracles, just completely out of left field. Nobody saw it coming. I thought last year I was going to lose. I got very lucky. I thought this year I was going to lose. I got very lucky again. So knock on wood that it can't get worse from here. And that makes me very optimistic heading into next year. I like my keepers. I like that I got 2 firsts. I like that it's only going to be 3 keepers, thanks to our 2 new additions, Oscar and Gregor, 2 great guys. I'm thrilled that they're joining the league, and I'm thrilled that just in general we're going to a 10-team league because I think it's going to make it a lot harder to succeed. It's going to make it, if you're in the shit show like I am, it's going to be way tougher to just pull guys off the waivers. And without naming names, I mean, some of the folks in our league that can just sit on their hands all year and do no trades, do nothing basically because their keepers are good and they can just pluck a couple guys here and there off the waivers. It's going to be a bit of a reality check. And hey, there's nothing wrong with doing that in an 8-team league because it's completely possible to do that in 8-team leagues because it's just inherently not really the way fantasy is meant to be played. It's supposed to be like 10 teams, and it's going to make it way more competitive on the waivers. It's going to be way harder to just find late round value in the draft. And your keepers aren't going to be as good because there's going to be 8 more players being kept every year. So I think it's going to have to force people to take a little risks here and there, because that's going to be necessary to succeed in 10-team league. So I'm super excited for that. And I'm super excited that Brandon Staley, may he rot in hell, is not on the Chargers anymore. Herbert might be unlocked. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, Brees should be a god. So I'm thrilled heading into next year. More thrilled than I've probably ever been going into a new year of fantasy. So yeah, congrats to Andrew, and I'll see y'all in Arizona. Peace.
All right, so looking back on my season, it was a disappointment for me. I started out the season with a win, and then I rattled off 4 losses after that. And I think at that point you start to consider where you're going to be at this season when you go a month without winning. That was a harsh reality check for me. And I just went into panic mode at that point. I just did not want to lose. I had to figure out a way to win in the losers bracket, and getting Connor in there and Nick, who had really hot weeks. I was just expecting to end up playing Thomas in the losers bracket, and obviously you know how fantasy goes. So neither Thomas or I played in the Sherrard Bowl. We were both in the 5th and 6th place matchup, but I kind of screwed myself to start the season because I didn't have a first or a second round pick. But in looking back at the draft, I feel like I killed it overall because this is skewed a little bit because it does have week 18 numbers in there. But Joe Mixon was my first pick in the 5th round, and he was RB5. Beautiful season for him. Second pick in the 4th round, I took Deebo Samuel. Then I also had a second, 4th round pick that I took Javonte, and then my first pick in the 5th round was Jared Goff. So Javonte and Jared Goff went to Jacob's team. I don't regret that trade. I just wish that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have gotten hurt. He would have won the trade regardless because Amon-Ra St. Brown was so good. But even if I still lost Watson, if I could have gotten a top 10 receiver in Garrett Wilson, which I believe he could have been with Aaron Rodgers, it would have been fine for me. So that definitely set the tone for my season. I still thought I'd be okay, but yeah, after 6 weeks in, I knew I had to do something. In the 6th round, I took James Conner, who he ended up being great. And then where my draft really heats up was 7th and 8th round. I took Isaiah Pacheco and then Jordan Love. Jordan Love was such a pleasant surprise this year, all the way down the line. And then to see how he played against the Cowboys, I mean, immediately gets put into the keeper role for me with an 8-year contract. Just really got his mojo going, and you could just see him slinging it. But in the 9th round, my biggest regret this year, dropping Mike Evans right after the draft. I took Mike Evans. I didn't believe in the Bucs. I didn't believe in Baker. I dropped him. I don't even know who I dropped him for at that point, to be honest. But it did me no favor. Jacob scooped him up immediately 3 days later, and it was perfect for him. Jacob, he ended up wide receiver 5, and that was amazing for Jacob's team this year. And then in the 11th round, I took C.J. Stroud. So C.J. Stroud was probably one of the most exciting players this year. It's not that I don't regret trading him. I have Jordan Love, so I would be stuck here between those two guys. So I'm glad I did trade one of them. I'm hoping that I'm keeping the right guy. But C.J. Stroud, he's one of those guys that passes the eye test. You watch him like flick his wrist and the ball goes 40 yards, and it's amazing to watch. Happy that Cam has him. That trade was not that bad for me because Puka is another one of those guys that I'm sitting on considering keeping. You just don't know what he's going to be like with somebody past Matt Stafford. So when you look at him on an 8-year contract, you're really curious to keep him and you kind of want to, but you just, you don't know what kind of player he's going to be. But if he is, outshining Cooper Kupp that fast, he's got to be amazing. So overall, with everything that happened and everything I had going into the season, I did kill the draft, I felt like. But the biggest thing that kind of saved my season was the trade between Nick and I. It wasn't even Tyreek that was the biggest part of that trade. It was Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not sure if that flipped our matchup. I'll have to go back and look, but Jahmyr Gibbs was beautiful in the first round of the toilet bowl, or not the toilet bowl, but the losers bracket, and he had like 26 and 20 points, which was huge for me, and that kind of kept me out of the losers bracket, or out of the Shard Bowl. So overall, it was a great season. A little bit disappointing, but I'm glad I didn't lose. That's always the end goal, and I'm happy and excited for my keepers for next year. So we will see you in Scottsdale.
Really interested to see what you do with your keeper situation this year. See if you can put up a fight to repeat for next year. As far as my season goes, just a massive, massive disappointment. Obviously, to first not make the playoffs as the high scorer, but then to somehow end up in the Shard Bowl really shattered all my faith and confidence and belief in anything making any sense. But fortunately, I didn't lose. I've come out of this season with realizing that nothing matters, nothing makes sense in fantasy. So fuck it. I feel good as far as my process throughout the season. Shit just went horribly, horribly awry for me. So there's always next year, and looking forward to seeing all of you in Phoenix and all expansion and next year. See you, boys.
I'm not too stoked to see my name on the losing trophy again this year, but it is what it is, man. Definitely could have made some better choices on my end, but, with injuries and stuff like that, whatever. It is what it is, But yeah, looking forward to next year. One thing that I was super stoked was getting Tua for next year. I felt like it was kind of a risk to lose Tyreek this year, definitely put myself in a tough spot. But moving forward, I think with adding 2 new guys and sticking with a 2-quarterback league, it just made the most sense for me. So I kind of knowingly knew that I was going to put myself in a tough spot this year, but excited for next year having 2 legit quarterbacks, because that's been kind of a struggle for me the past couple of years. On that note, I will absolutely outrage if we decide to go down to 1 quarterback league or a super flex spot. Consider me quitting at this point, because, Michael did make a nice little comment about moving to 1 quarterback right after we traded and making fun of me. Definitely going to outrage against that and will not stand for it, but that's something totally different. All jokes aside, this was a really fun year. Really excited to see everybody in Arizona, actually. That's going to be really cool, going to the Waste Management Tour, getting to see everybody. Having Oscar and Gregor Joy is going to be super fun. I think overall going down to 3 quarterback keeper league, 3 keeper league is going to be really interesting. Excited to see how that plays out. Definitely going to shake things up. One of my biggest regrets, I think, from this year was probably losing Jahmyr Gibbs. To be honest, I think it was just really fun for me to watch him progress, because in the beginning of the year, I saw articles like, oh, he's kind of a potential bust, all these kind of stuff, and then he really took off towards the end of the year, so I thought that was really fun just to kind of watch. Same with like Breece Hall the previous year before when I had him. It was just really entertaining to watch those guys. So kind of losing him was kind of a regret, because it was just not as much fun to watch the Lions at that point. But still a really good year to kind of get those like big wins early on and see him progress. So that was super cool. Other than that, just really stoked to see you guys in Arizona in about a month. So looking forward to that. And stoked to see everyone, and cheers, boys.
Looking forward to this next year. Excited for Arizona for the Super Bowl and celebrate Andrew's win. Also excited for the expansion draft. That'll be interesting. Depending on who you guys pick, I'm going to try to get. Be nice to get an elite quarterback, but There might not be any available depending on your keepers. Definitely get a running back or two and wide receiver if I can. So that's kind of my plans for the expansion draft, and looking forward to this next year. So see you guys all in Arizona.